And thanks for joining our webinar. Oh, hang on 2 seconds. Thanks for the webinar on machine safeguarding solutions. We're going to explore 12 essential product families designed to enhance both new and upgrade projects, whether engineer, integrator, machine builder, OEM, or end user. Uh, I think you'll gain valuable insight into innovative and time-tested technologies that improve safety and efficiency. From next-generation smart safety relay systems like GuardLink to reliable solutions such as trap key interlocks. We'll showcase how these products can be applied across various industrial environments. This session will help you understand which safeguarding solutions best fit your application, ensuring compliance, reliability, and advanced protection for operators and equipment alike. So, my name is Matt Dodd, Safety Product Manager for Gary Electric. I have been in the industry for close to 30 years, and the majority of that repping safeguarding products. So again, if you have any questions, please ask. Okay, so in today's presentation, we're going to address more common aspects of machine guarding with respect to devices that can solve the majority of applications. We'll cover access doors, operator protective devices, e-stop devices, presence sensing devices, and then take a look into the panel to review some safety logic devices. So the 12 groups of products covered in this presentation relate to more standalone safeguarding or devices that interface into a safety PLC. We will not be covering the safety PLCs themselves, but we will be talking about the peripheral devices. So we have devices for access doors, trap key, sensor guard, other non-contact switches, guard lock door switches, and the multifunction access box. We'll touch on enabling grips, and then go into e-stop devices, cable pull and e-stop push buttons. Presence sensing devices, safety light curtains, single beam perimeter guard, edges and mats, and then safety logic devices, the 440R relay and GuardLink. And then as time permits, we'll cover some additional topics that relate to safety with respect to things that are required. So why did I choose these products? Because they offer unique problem-solving capabilities. They are newer technologies that are easier to connect, or they offer better diagnostic capabilities. Some things to consider when selecting a product are the product cost versus installation time. Connectorized solutions minimize number of connections leading to reduced panel wiring. No longer do devices need to be hardwired back into an I/O card like they used to. Diagnostic capabilities versus troubleshooting time. Products enabled with all sorts of visual indicators and accessible internal diagnostics and status information. Repair, replacement versus longevity. Selecting the right product for the application to survive the environment. So as we continue our journey, I'll point out these things to consider when selecting products and solutions for particular safeguarding needs. Just some quick information on switches. So before I go into selecting switches, I just wanted to cover some background on different switch types. There's two main types of movable guards. There have been many designs and redesigns of switches over the years to address how guards open, and as technologies improve, again, so there's a lot of choice out there, but I'm going to go through them and just talk about why or why not you should choose them. So as per ISO 14119, this is interlocking devices associated with guards. This talks about the 5 different types of switches. So first you have type 1, so an interlocking device with mechanically actuated position switch with an uncoated actuator. And again, I'll have some examples of this. So for example, a hinged interlocking switch. Type 2, interlocking device with mechanically actuated position switch with a coated actuator. So again, a tongue actuated position switch is a good example of this. Type 3, interlocking device with non-contact actuated position switch with an uncoated actuator. So again, proximity switches. Type 4, interlocking device with non-contact actuated position switch with a coded actuator. So example, RFID tag actuated position switches. And then lastly, type 5, which is kind of its own category, trap key interlocking device, part of a trap key interlocking system, which fulfills a function by trapping or releasing one or more keys in a given system. So, we have door locks, key operated switches, and key exchange units. So type 1 has a cam or hinge style means of actuation. In the rest or normal state, these contacts are normally closed when the actuator is not present and the guard is not closed. These must be used in a pair where a second set of normally open contacts are held closed such that if the actuating cam goes out of alignment, they will spring open and stop the equipment. You see the example there where again it opened up one switch and then the other one was forced open. With a rotary cam style hinge switch, a cam or indent is used to actuate the switch. Again, if the cam goes out of alignment, there's no way of telling unless you had two switches arranged in the same way as the linear cam on a sliding door. Type 2 in the normal or rest position when the actuator is present or when the guard is closed. The actuator is physically attached to the door and must be removed from the switch to actuate the contacts. This is similar to type 1 with the movement of cam to actuate the contacts. So let's kind of show the animation there where, again, as I pull the key out, it rotates the cam, forces down a set of contacts, and opens up the circuit. Type 2 for a lot of customers became the standard. However, they are not without their issues. Increased wear of plastics due to poor alignment of the actuator, which led to, metal guides being installed or created, and then adjustable keys to aid with self-alignment on short radius doors, and then even double adjustable keys to kind of give a full movement of actuation. So again, these were designed for short radius doors. They actually weren't designed for misalignment. The key should be aligned when it goes into the switch. And then type 3 introduces the concept of non-contact sensing. And in this example, again, magnets being used to keep a set of contacts close. However, other styles of sensing exist: optical, inductive, capacitance, ultrasonic. Type 3 devices, while not my first choice, can help solve certain challenges and can have advantages in select applications with higher current direct switching capabilities and sealed explosion-proof models. However, a means still needs to be provided to prevent unintended actuation of the switch. As part of the Type 2 device family is guard locking tongue switches, which consist of a switch containing a solenoid and mechanical mechanism to change state depending on whether the key is inserted or not. So quick little animation here. So in this example, the door is now closed and locked. So again, I'm showing kind of two cross sections, one of the head and the other one just kind of showing, again, kind of an illustration. And this has been around for a long time. I'm not sure who created it, but I've seen this one a lot. So door is closed and locked. Power is applied, so power to release the actuator. So again, you can see it there. It opens up that little hook mechanism on the actuator. The door starts to open, and then now the door is fully open and the contacts are changed state. So again, main issue with any cam operated switch is damage to the actuator and or damage to the cam mechanism from excessive force being applied to the switch when it's locked or when a door is slammed closed. Once during an on-site visit, I overheard one of the maintenance personnel say, "I need to go straighten the actuator on that machine again." So again, it's a commonplace. So, but what can we do to get it to overcome that? Type 4 technology, these are non-contact and fall into three categories, so magnetic, RFID, and optical. all require coating of some degree. Magnetic coating uses a series of magnets in the actuator, and when aligned with the sensor, change state. Direction of travel is important um, because there are two contacts in there. So as the actuator moves, it could actually transition the set of contacts a couple of times, which would result in an error of the controller. So if we look at the illustration on the right, note there is a magnet inside the sensor that holds the normally open contacts closed. When the actuator is within the operating range, the magnetic field of the actuator cancels out the magnetic field in the sensor and the contacts open. And I apologize if the polarity of the magnet inside the actuator is incorrect. It's been a while since I've looked inside one of these. Okay, one last thing before going into products. You may or may not have heard about fault masking. This is when multiple normally closed electromechanical contacts are put in series. Basically, if a guard is actuated and one of the contacts remains closed, the logic unit or safety relay detects the failure. However, the problem arises when inadvertent clearing of the fault when another door is opened. The fault is masked and now the system has an undetected fault. So when performing safety calculations, fault masking must be taken into consideration. For example, if you have one frequently open door guard in series with another three guards, the maximum achievable diagnostic coverage is low. However, if you add one more guard, you now have no diagnostic coverage. So again, these are all factors when referring to ISO 13849 for calculating your performance level of your circuit. So I did a quick background on switches. So now let's look at some different technologies that we can use to help overcome these problems. And again, use them, the best product for the application. So first, trap key. This has been around a long time, designed for electrostatic precipitators that use a high voltage. So if someone was trapped in there and the power was turned on, they wouldn't exist very long. So these were designed so that the operator could go in there, work on it, come out, lock the door before the power was turned back on. So they're 100% mechanical solution. They do have electrical monitoring on some models. 100% stainless steel. They're not affected by high pressure washdown, not affected by detergents. A solenoid release unit can be employed to ensure the machine comes to a full stop before allowing access. And again, the advantage is that with the stainless steel, they're non-sparking materials for use in explosive environments. So if I drop them on the floor, it's not going to cause a spark. And these actually have a fireproof rating where I think they set them on fire for like 30 minutes and they survive. So again, certain beverage industries or companies prefer this solution. Other areas that could use this are robotic work cells, petrochemical, or any environment subjected to like a harsh washdown, explosive atmosphere, or where a sequence of operation is impaired to keep the operators safe. So how does it work? So on the right hand, just depending where you look at, left hand side of the screen here, you see an isolator. So this has a time delay release key. So what I do is I have one non-removable key, so it's marked in yellow there. I turn that key and it then starts the timing sequence. So the key on the right is trapped until the timing sequence ends, and then a solenoid releases that key. I can then turn it. I take it over, I put it into the key exchange unit. So the key exchange unit allows me to then release two subsequent keys. So the first key I can use to retract the bolt from the guard door, and then the other key is used on another door where I can then take the C key out and then put it into a rotary key switch to then energize the teach mode of the robot. And then with the teach mode of the robot, I'm going to have that enabling pendant. And again, so again, it keeps the operator safe. And then to re-energize the machine, I simply reverse the sequence. So these can get fairly complex. So again, if you have any questions or any need of this product, give me a call. For most non-locking door applications, I recommend SensiGuard. These are RFID coded switches and overcome issues with coded magnets such as attracting metal filings and direction of approach. Simply bring the actuator within the rated detection range of the switch and the outputs turn on. When connected in series, these are immune to fault masking with OSSD self-monitoring outputs. And additionally, because they are non-contact, except for the magnetic latch model, they are not susceptible to damage due to impact because they are solid state and they should never need to be replaced. One of the popular models that Gary sells is the 440N-Z21SS2H. So this is an 8-pin microchange cable on a 6-inch pigtail. So these switches can be connected in series. So they come in 2 flavors, so a standard low or a unique high-coded actuator, which need to be taught, a 10 to 25 mil sensing range. Again, you can connect these in series. Plastic barrel, stainless steel barrel, flat pack, a variety of options to suit the application. The magnetic hold and integrated latch version, which you can see in the picture there on the bottom left. And then these are all IP66, 67, and 69K, which are suitable for high pressure washdown. So again, this is the popular model here, the rectangular. Again, I'm sure you'd see them out there on machines. So what is an OSSD, or output secondary switching device? Well, an OSSD is a self-checking output that periodically turns off and looks for a backfeed voltage. In this example, if the output doesn't drop to 0 within the 450 microsecond test pulse off time, the device will go into a lockout mode and turn off both outputs. FarrowGuard. This is another go-to product depending on the application. These are coded magnet switches, so direction of approach is important. However, they have a high environmental tolerance. Using with a system like GuardLink would overcome fault masking if connected in series. So again, they have a 12 mil make and a 23 mil break rating. They do have high current, high switching current capabilities, so 2 amps, 250 volts AC, or 1 amp at 24 volts. So again, I could use them for direct switching a load depending on the application. I usually see these types of products on like food processing equipment, say like a dough mixer or something. They have a stainless steel housing with an IP68 rating, NEMA 6P, up to 125 degrees C and down to negative 25. And then they also have environmental, hazardous environmental ratings. So again, for ATEX approvals. And they come with a tamper-proof mounting screws and a driver bit. So again, this satisfies the requirements. So in ISO 14119, it does talk about not only the use and application of the switches, but also the mounting. So again, popular model there, the 440N G021123, which is, again, DC, two normally closed, one normally open for monitoring with a 3-meter cable. I've been, again, product manager for almost 30 years. The 440G MZ is my favorite guard locking door switch. Why is that? It's a Type 4 device, as per ISO 14119, with low or high coded RFID actuators. Just a side note, where would I use a high coded RFID actuator? In a place where there is a high probability of defeat. So if you determine that, I think someone's going to bypass this door with a spare actuator, then you can put on a unique actuator, high coded, that needs to be taught. One thing to note, though, is that once you teach these, I believe it's 4 or 8 times. They can only be taught, I believe it's 8 times. Once you exceed the number of teaches, the switch becomes a doorstop because basically it means that someone's been defeating this thing. So again, guy comes in on the Friday night, bypasses the door, puts the actuator back on Sunday night, whenever he's done his shift, and then he does that for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, the switch doesn't work anymore. So, and again, it does go into a lockout state that is non-recoverable. So again, they do have their place, but you need to know when and where. They do have embedded Gardling technology. I'll talk about that in some subsequent slides with device and link indicators provided by, again, two bright 270-degree status indicators. Power to release and power to lock models with a high holding force of 2,500 newtons. So these switches are suitable for full body access. You can get the model on the left-hand side there with the egress button. So again, if somebody does become trapped in the cell, you can push that button, pushes down the actuator, and I can then open the door. One thing to note too, the mainstay is power to release. So basically, if I lose power, I don't want anybody in that cell. So again, I don't know what's happening or anything else. So power to release is your first choice. Power to lock is more for, again, depending on the application. Sometimes you want, okay, if I lose power, I want access to the equipment. Like say, for example, like it's something that's, prone to catching fire or something. So the fire department needs to get in there. So I want to drop the lock when I lose power. They come with a flexible actuator. So again, this kind of provides full alignment, misalignment of plus or minus 5 millimeters. IP69 enclosure rating, so high pressure washdown with no direct access for water ingress. And then a low power consumption. So these employ a bistable solenoid. So I apply power, it unlocks the switch, it stays unlocked until I tell it to lock again. So again, so once it unlocks, the solenoid turns off. Again, popular model, MZS20 UNRJE. Oh, and one last thing, the lockout bar, the little T-shaped bar on the top, again, very popular style for locking out switches. I can simply slide the bar through there and put 3 padlocks on it, or use those additional padlock extenders. So again, really easy to lock out and maintain your lockout procedure. So in a recent application, a customer was having issues with tongue-style actuator switches. It was a washdown application, but it really begs the question, what does IP69K mean? So an IP69K, they have a spray duration. The total test is 2 minutes, where they apply a high-pressure spray at 4 angles, so 0, 30, 60, and 90. Duration at each angle, 30 seconds. Water temperature is heated up to 80 degrees C, and the water pressure is maintained at around 100 bar. Flow rate, 4 gallons per minute, and then they rotate the product at a 5 RPM on a 5 RPM turntable until to ensure all surfaces are adequately tested. And then the distance from the nozzle to the test object is 4 to 6 inches. So if it meets those requirements, it is IP69K. However, reality is that, on these machines subject to washdown, the cleaner's got that high pressure nozzle and he's trying to strip the paint off this thing, so they're subjecting this to some very high pressures. And it, depending on the type of switch, it can work its way into the body of the switch. So that was what's happening with these other Camlock style switches, is that it was becoming a bucket. So with this switch, because of where the pin is located in the seal, when I blow the water into the switch, it simply blows out the other side because it doesn't have direct access to that seal. So again, they've been up and running. I haven't heard any complaints, and it's been well over a year. Another reason I like this switch, the image shows a standard TLS door switch with lots of connections to mess up. 440G MZ has 5 connections again, plus and minus 24 volts, 2 outputs, and then 1 lock unlock input, offering a huge advantage with in a reduction of number of connections that are needed to be made. It's all internally self-monitored, so all the extra connections are not needed. Another side note in the image on the right is the use of the 440R-GLT or guard lock timing module, which handles all of the timing and sequencing for guard door access with minimal connections. And so you want to minimize your wiring even more. GuardLink offers a trunk and drop connectivity with T-taps and off-the-shelf M12 cables. The 432 ESIG3 is a complete plug-and-play on-machine block with 3 channels back to GuardLink safety to a GuardLogix safety PLC. When connected to a safety PLC, all of the information for the MZ is available through pre-mapped tags. So again, this is just a screen capture of the information in the PLC. You don't have a PLC, there's also the 440R-2DG that can be used to convey status information and diagnostic information through Ethernet connectivity, so standard Ethernet with the gateway. And the lock and unlock signal is sent through the Ethernet port. So again, there's that's pretty much the only way to use them with locking and locking door switches. Okay, last slide on why I think the MZ is a great product. So Rockwell first released the LZ switch for access doors. Great product. However, if excessive force was applied to the actuator, the locking pin could be bent. With a 440G, the top of the locking pin goes into a guide, allowing it to withstand a lot more force. With the optional egress mechanism on the MZ, it can be used in both partial and full body access applications. Also, with respect to solenoid power, a TLS switch needs to be continually powered to keep the door unlocked. It requires 7 watts of power at 292 milliamps. The LZ, slightly less, 2.5 watts and 400 milliamps for 100 milliseconds to lock or unlock the door. And the MZ topping the list with 1.2 watts of power draw and only 150 milliamps for 800 milliseconds to lock or unlock the door. So again, great product. As wonderful as it is, sadly, the 440G MZ cannot satisfy all applications. The 442G MAB or multifunction access box provides local door access and control of guarded space. It offers an Ethernet. There's 2 versions. The Ethernet IP is the version I recommend. Reduces design time by using add-on profiles in Studio 5000. Supports DLR. It's rated PLE Cat 4. It has integrated functions. It has an optional escape release and has a high holding force of 2,000 newtons with 2 integrated hasp to affix padlocks for lockout. Again, suitable for full body access. So again, here's the popular model there. So the Ethernet. Please note that the handle and the rear release and the lock unit all need to be ordered separately. So why Ethernet? I think this slide sums it up. There's a lot of connections that would need to be terminated on various safety and non-safety interfaces. So what could possibly go wrong? In my experience, I worked at a company and they had put in the hardwired one, and they said, "Oh yeah, can we add door monitoring to that?" Oh, we didn't run enough wires. We ran like a 16 pin cables or a 16 wire cable, so they would have to re-pull all the wires. Well, Ethernet, everything's there. So if you're going to look at this solution, highly recommend the Ethernet IP version. Quick note on operator protection devices. So the 440J enabling switch, it's a dual 3-position enabling switch. The grip must be maintained in the middle position to operate. It's lightweight, ergonomic. It has optional jog and e-stop functions. Strain relief for M12 connector, and has optional mounting accessories. And there's the popular one there with the integrated e-stop, the -NE model. So the internal switch is, again, 3-position. It needs to be held in the middle position. If the switch is pulled all the way in, it needs to be fully released and then pulled back into the middle position. Plates and accessories aid with the installation and activation of a limited mode. The enabling grips can be removed from a tongue interlock switch to activate the mode. Typically, a reduction of speed of equipment to allow an operator close interaction with a hazardous section of equipment for setup or cleaning. And then enabling devices can allow for one or more operators in a guarded space at the same time. And I'm not even going to comment on the pictures I pulled from the catalog. That wasn't me. E-stop devices. The Lifeline 5 cable pull switch, again, another one of my favorite products. These utilize a stainless wire rope or cable connected to a latching pull switch. When the rope is pulled in any direction along the length, the switch will be tripped. There are some new versions coming out in August with integrated guard link and a few other functions. But all I can say right now, look for the announcement on that. So these constantly monitor cable tension, and they compensate for thermal expansions, cable sag, and spurious trips due to inadvertent strikes of the cable by objects or personnel. Currently, they span up to 100 meters, and there is a stainless steel IP69K version. Built-in indication of rope tension. Talk about that in a minute. Solid state transducer with OSSD output. So again, series connectable, no mechanical parts to wear or fail. I have been, party to some recalls on these products due to they forgot to grease the internal contacts and they did change state. So with this type of product, you're not going to have those kind of failures. And it's simpler safety calculations using probability of dangerous failure per hour calculation. So mechanical devices require the calculation of a mean time to failure to danger based on B10D and frequency of operation estimate. So again, a lot of calculations. B10D is, they test a bunch of these switches, and when 10% of the lot fails, that is the B10D value. So with this, again, it is easier to do your calculations. Same applies for SensaGuard and the MZ switch as well. So good application for cable pull, conveyors, tables. Pretty much, every conveyor needs a cable pull switch. Sometimes around the opening of a piece of equipment that has kind of full access, maybe there's some rollers or something there that need to be put in for that need to be cleaned, like say like a printing press or something. Or I've seen them in paper making applications where you got two rollers coming together. Someone needs to be in there for inspection or something. So they have these openings guarded with a cable pull switch. So the built-in indicator. I sell a lot of indicators that have to be then put into one of the conduit entrances on the switch and wired in. With the Lifeline 5, it's built in. So there's two sets of indicators. You get the status, which is red or green. So red for tripped or green for operational. And then the tension indicator. So if it's flashing solid, it means I need to tension the cable. As I increase the tension on the cable, the light flashes faster until it goes off, which means, hey, you've got proper tension on the cable. I can then hit the reset button and the switch becomes active. So main thing is that if with the other type of switch, like the Lifeline 4 in the example there, you would have to have a second person to look at the indicator to tell you when it's properly tensioned. with this single person setup. And then pretty much, every installation, you're going to need a minimum of cable grips, tensioner, and eye bolts. You can source these all individually or buy a kit with everything included. So this is the popular model here is a 20-meter kit. So once the eye bolts are installed to support the cable, the only thing that is needed is a pair of cutters and an Allen key. So the cable inserts into the grips and the excess cable tension is trimmed off and the Allen key is used to then tension the cable. So the eye bolts, again, are designed to support the cable to keep, again, if you had a machine with some vibration, that cable is going to start, resonating and bouncing all over the place. It also maintains a uniform pull. So no matter where I pull the rope, it's going to be at the exact same distance I pull it for it to actuate. And the cable grips there, again, no tool installation. You simply slide the cable through the grip, and then the excess can go in the little holder there. So again, these it's a pretty quick and easy installation. And so, what does most every machine need? An e-stop, some shape and description. 800F is a 22 mil mounting push button with a variety of options. However, unless it's needed to be mounted to the panel, the 800F 1YMD51 is an illuminated e-stop button and comes in a standalone enclosure with a 5-pin connector, and wiring is compatible with SensaGuard and GuardLink system. So again, offering quick and easy installation and indication of a trip condition. All right. Presence sensing devices. So presence sensing devices, there are AOPD, so active optical presence sensing devices. 3 types. Point of control, where you have a higher resolution of 14 or 30 mil. So typically you find these like in a punch press application where an operator's interact with the machine. Perimeter access control of the pack. Full body access, a place to find these pallet wrapping equipment. And then lastly, the AAC or area access control. So when you get into, again, like a larger space, I recently sold a pair of these into an application where there was a steel I-beam being loaded onto a conveyor and transferred into a machine. They just wanted to keep personnel out of the air during the automatic transfer, but required the long range open access for loading. So the 450L Guard Shield, they offer a unique transceiver technology. Each unit can be used as a transmitter or receiver, so reducing maintenance spares. Functionality is provided by the plugins that are at the bottom of the sticks. And you get various functions there, so muting, blanking, start mode, external device monitor, scanning range can all be changed. Basic or enhanced models, and then in 14 and 30 mil resolution. The enhanced models give you access to more of the advanced features like blanking and muting, and they also feature an integrated laser alignment system. So that helped to aid in the installation of equipment and unit. Most popular model is the enhanced version in a 3-foot length. And then unique to Allen Bradley is the SIP safety interface for the 450L light curtain. So I can connect the light curtain to a safety PLC. I can set up, configure, monitor and select functions through the add-on profile. So you could actually, use a selector switch, a safety selector switch, to change the functionality of the light curtain based on a pre-designated profile set up within the program. The 450L PAC model, or permanent access control, is built using the same technology as the 450L POC models. These come in a 2, 3, or 4 beam model and have a lower resolution designed for body detection. So again, if you look at it there, you see a bunch of LEDs. Those are actually a grouping of LEDs. They're not individual. And so again, it's designed for somebody like, detecting a full body. Again, popular one there, 3 beam, 900 millimeters with the appropriate plugins. And then the area access control, so the 440L. So there's 2 models, short scan range of 0.5 meter to 20 meter, or the long scan range of 15 to 70 meters, so through up to 300 feet. die-cast aluminum housing, heated front lens, outdoor applications, or again, perhaps you have these on a building with open access to the outdoors. You don't want to keep them from fogging up. Relay outputs with cable glands and terminal chambers. And then they have like mirror accessories. So for single-sided mounting or multi-sided access. So again, here's an application showing single-sided mounting where I'm bouncing the beam off two mirrors back to a receiver. So again, robotic cells, processing, machining centers, palletizers, transfer lines, high bay warehouses. So again, somewhere again you're protecting a large area. Types of contact presence sensing, so safety mats and safety edges. So safety mats can be used around equipment to ensure operators cannot locate themselves near the hazards. So in this application, we have like a CNC cutting table where other devices like scanners and lichens are going to be tripped due to like debris being ejected from the equipment. So again, safety mats are a great option for this. And then safety edges. So again, there's some images there. Automatic roll-up doors. Again, you got different areas of the plant where forklifts drive through. So you want that, the door comes down automatically, after the forklift drives through. And if somebody tries to come in behind them, the safety edge would be tripped, and then it would reverse the door. And you see some other applications there where you've got like we sold these on like automatic closing doors, again on like environmental test equipment, tables where there potentially could be a pinch point between like a wall, two calendar rollers coming together, AGVs, and then the one on the bottom left was kind of an interesting one where they put a bumper strip across the top of the fence to keep somebody from climbing over it into the equipment. So again, all kinds of unique applications. So safety mats, what are they? They're just two mats or two plates of hardened steel with a separator designed to detect people. So minimum weight of 66 pounds with a static pressure of up to 4,500 pounds. So I could, roll a forklift over one of these as well. Two different rib patterns, standard sizes from up to 1,000 millimeters by 1,500 millimeters in a variety of shapes. There's some different trim options for holding these down, 4 wires for fault detection, and they are an IP67 rated vinyl outer surface. So again, resistant to bleaches, acids, salt, and most industrial chemicals. So the active uniting trim is designed to keep that active surface 100% across the surface. So if you put the test object, it's a 80 mil round disc anywhere on that mat, including that active area, it will activate the mat. And then all mats need to be held in place, not just laid on the ground, and hopefully nobody will pull out of the way. So securely fastened with a perimeter trim. But again, safety mats are designed for machine shutdown, not as a hold to run. So okay, I want the operator to stand on the mat to keep the machine running. It's like, no, it's used the other way, where if the operator steps on the mat, it stops the machine. Cannot be used in that area. Safety edge profile. So again, it's a conductive rubber. No internal, there's no internal parts that can break or fatigue after prolonged use. So you can either get these custom assembled or you can self-assemble them. You can buy the rubber strips, buy the ends, buy the plug-ins, and put them together yourselves. Variety of profiles shown there, and different mounting rails. So again, popular one there is a 440F E0310S10. These can be, again, ordered custom. So if you have a safety mat, you need an area cut out, a corner cut out, that can be accommodated. Or in the application of the safety edge, they could be curved. So this was designed to meet the curvature of the machine for tire manufacturing. Okay, end of the home stretch here. So when looking at overall connected enterprise, there's, some devices typically don't have a lot of information today. So we can, those that do reside in Ethernet have a lot of information to convey. Traditionally, if a PLC is involved, everything will be wired back to its own terminal on a rack or remote I/O. This can be expensive and excessive. However, depending on the application, it may be necessary. This is where GuardLink comes into play. So GuardLink currently has two versions. I have a SIP safety over Ethernet version with 3 independent channels, or a relay version with two connected channels, being part of the 440R relay family. So 440R is a series of relays. You can see them. There's a variety of models. They all have removable terminal blocks. They have multiple status indicators to provide to aid in diagnostics. Multi-position switches to set their functionality. Again, reducing the amount of inventory with multifunction relays. There's 9 models to choose from, including speed detection and guard lock timing modules, and the GuardLink as well. 24-volt operation, universal inputs, connect virtually any 1 or 2 output safety device, including safety mats and edges, and they are series parallel connectable with a single wire safety connection. The popular model being the D22, which is a dual input. So I could say have like a light curtain and an e-stop, or an e-stop and a gate switch, feeding 2 separate inputs on my relay for ease of connectivity. So again, there's an application there. So again, with the OR connected, I've seen these on load tables where I have parallel connected light curtains where there's at least, 1 input must remain on at all times. So say you've got, like I said, operator loads a part in, and then robot comes from the other side, does something, and then the operator takes the part out. If they try to exist in the space at the same time, it would, trip the output. In the past, there was you had to use 5 relays parallel connected. It was a mess. It's a setting with a dip switch. Single wire safety. If you're trying to upgrade an older MSR 300 system or try to achieve a higher level of safety with electromechanical relays, the connections are numerous. With the 440R, you can simply run a single wire, and you can see the pulse waveform there that it puts out to the next relay as kind of a keep alive signal. So great option, and again, reduce a lot of wiring, gives you a lot of flexibility in what you can do. Advantage over electromechanical relays: safety, input pulse testing. So on the bottom left-hand side there, you see that S11 puts out a series of pulses, and S21 puts out a different series of pulses. So then the input terminals S12 and S22 are looking for those pulses, right? If it sees an open, a short to ground, a short to positive, or anything, it will fault out and give you an error on either channel. And then you get, well, I can't test it with a voltmeter. Well, actually, you can. If you put a voltmeter across S11, you'll measure approximately 14 volts DC, which is a normal. So it's basically it's the RMS value of the pulse train there. So again, you can test these things with a standard voltmeter, and when you put it across S21, you get approximately 18 volts. So again, you can still test these with a voltmeter. You don't need a scope or anything else. I'm just showing this for illustration of what the channels look like. With older technology, it was simply, again, like 3 relays in a box. You could have 2 positive channels. You could have 1 positive and 1 negative channel, and they used like an internal fuse or a circuit breaker or self-resetting fuse. So if I say I took S11 and I shorted it to ground, or that channel going from S11 to S12 to ground, it would simply trip out that internal fuse or breaker and then drop the relay. However, if I shorted it to positive, it wouldn't do anything because it doesn't know, which is again the advantage of using pulse test inputs. And then, you know, there's also a model. So if you see the MSR for in the example there, there's the MSR 127.1. If you look at it, the auxiliary output 4344 was normally open versus normally closed. So I would use that on a power to lock type door switch application. So again, now I need two different relays, and then there was all the variations. So again, really cut down on my inventory by switching to the 440R. GuardLink. So again, it's a trunk and drop system. I can have up to 32 taps on a network, 100 meters between taps. They can accommodate electromechanical or solid state output devices. And I can run it back to, this particular example is the dual GuardLink relay with an Ethernet interface on there for diagnostics and lock and unlocking over the network. A couple of years ago, they introduced GuardLink 2 architecture. So this is the 432ES IG3. So this is the on-machine master. Gives me 3 independent channels with the Series B smart tap. So it gives me a little bit more enhanced diagnostics. And now, again, there's a variety of devices coming with built-in GuardLink for ease of connectivity. So the taps there are mainly passive taps just to allow it to drop onto the network. So here's an application out of the brochure. So again, they're showing a cartoner, you know, a variety of doors and e-stops, light curtains, all, you know, basically if I trip a device, the machine shuts down. Perfect application for GuardLink because all the devices reside on the same link. And if any of those devices go down on that link, it turns off the outputs. And again, if you had, I get some applications, well, I want to have like one of my my channel, you know, one of my devices on a different channel. So you could again use the 432ES and put, say, your locking devices onto a different channel and have them work independently, depending on the state of the safeguarding devices. So again, connectivity over SIP safety over Ethernet IP using the GuardLogix 53 or 5580 PLCs, switch selectable addresses, same functions, 32 devices per channel, 3 independent zones. You can separate the mods and the output wiring, time stamping, and again, they maintain a high level of safety. One model to choose from in a nice compact housing. So that kind of brings us to the end of the one section. The essence of time, I'm going to just buzz through this slide and then just see if I can touch on some of the other stuff. But, you know, we've got a filling machine. How would I guard it? You know, do I need to lock the door? You know, I'm concerned about, you know, process and procedure or cleaning and maintenance. You know, are there access doors that don't need to be locked? Do you have an in-feed and out-feed conveyor that needs to be protected? Does it require operator intervention during setup? Do all access points shut down the machine? So again, depending on the application, there may be one or multiple products, but again, we do have a product to suit the application. All right, I'm just going to touch on accessories. Class 2 power supplies. Whenever somebody asked me for something, I said, did you use a Class 2 power supply? Why? Because devices with OSSD outputs, they are rated for Class 2, which basically means that if you put a dead short across their outputs to ground, that the power supply will drop off before you damage the device. So that is why you use a Class 2 power supply. You can also use electronic circuit protection modules that are NEC a National Code Class 2 compliant. And then in Europe, we have the SELV and PELV, so protective extra low voltage and separate extra low voltage. So again, these are so again, if you're shipping machines to Europe, all 1606 power supplies are SELV, PELV compliant. And then certain models are NEC Class 2 compliant. Again, typically limited to a maximum of 100 volt amps or approximately 4.2 amps. So what happens again? Device is rated 200 milliamps, 4.8 watts. I have a 40 amp power supply providing 1,440 watts. If I short the output, I just made a really expensive fuse. So it's like 300 times more power than the output's rated for. So that's a problem. So again, if I put in the correct size power supply, if there's a fault, current limitation kicks in, it will protect those outputs from shorting. So very important. Or again, you can use electronic circuit protectors. Motor starter M100. This is Joe Daly's product, but I just wanted to touch on it because there is a safety model with an STO input. Can be used together with other components in the safety application to achieve a Category 3 PLE and SIL 3 according to the two relevant standards. Slide with advance. There we go. Safety contactors, or sorry, safety control relays. They look like contactors. So again, provide a mechanically linked or mirror contact performance, which are required in feedback circuits for safety applications. These are permanently fixed front-mounted auxiliary contact box. So again, they are glued on, so you cannot order them separately. And then we have, for switching larger current, we have the contactors. So again, they provide that same mechanically linked or mirror contact symbol, again, with the permanently fixed auxiliary blocks up to 750 amps. And that's about all we have time for. So I am going to jump into the chat here and see if we have any questions. And again, feel free to email me, mdodds@gary.com if you have any questions on these safeguarding products.